It's always nice to be surprised when watching a now seemingly inevitable credit scene in whatever big screen blockbuster you're taking in next. But of course, not all of the last-minute cameos and twists can land with quite the same shock value. And so, these 10 post-credits movie scenes were all, for better or worse, howlingly obvious to the point that many fans called them long before they even sat down to watch the film in question. So I am Gareth here from WhatCulture.com, and here are 10 post-credits movie scenes everyone saw coming. Number 10, Tails joins the party, Sonic the Hedgehog. Back when the Sonic the Hedgehog movie was first announced, many fans were left wondering why Sonic's beloved sidekick Miles Prower, aka Tails, was conspicuously absent. And so, given that basically every blockbuster movie hoping for its own franchise is duty-bound to feature a sequel-baiting credits scene, it seemed like a 99.8% certainty that Tails would make an appearance this way. And that's precisely what happened. In the middle of the credits, a ring portal opens on Earth, and Sonic's trusty orange pal leaps out, before announcing that they've finally tracked down Sonic and flying off to meet him. Number 9, Adrian Toomes cameo, Morbius. Morbius' very first trailer, released back in the halcyon days of January 2020, immediately confirmed that Michael Keaton would appear in the film as Adrian Toomes, aka Vulture, the very same villain he played in Spider-Man Homecoming. The notion of the MCU Spider-Man movies intermingling with full-on Sony-produced Spider-Man adjacent properties like Morbius and Venom was certainly exciting. Though as it turns out, Keaton's role in the former was significantly retooled during post-production. Following the release of Spider-Man No Way Home, his part had to be reshot to maintain continuity with the MCU. And though Morbius' marketing continued to play up Toomes' presence in the film proper, anyone watching it for the first time surely figured out for themselves that Toomes' absence was leading to a credits-based cameo. And that's exactly what fans got. In the mid-credits scene, Toomes finds himself transported to Morbius' universe following the events of No Way Home, spawning in a prison cell where, due to there being no record of him in this universe, he's soon released. The post-credits scene then sees Toomes now inexplicably sporting his Vulture attire and approaching Morbius before suggesting they team up to take down Spider-Man. Number 8, Skynet Lives, Terminator Genisys. The laziest, most obvious sorts of post-credit scenes are those which set up a sequel by simply revealing that the villain we all thought was dead is in fact still alive. It's a trick as old as time, or at least cinema itself. And one of the most howlingly predictable from any major movie franchise is surely Terminator Genisys' lackluster last-minute resurrection gambit. The film seemingly ends with Sarah Connor, Kyle Reese, and Pops destroying the villainous T-3000 John Connor and obliterating the mainframe of Genisys, Cyberdyne's new operating system, which is basically a rebooted version of Skynet. But after the heroes ride off into the sunset, a mid-credit scene cuts back to the rubble of the Cyberdyne facility, where Genisys' system core has survived in an underground chamber, and the holographic projection of Skynet fleetingly flashes to life. Given that the filmmakers behind Terminator Genisys made it abundantly clear that the movie was the first entry into a planned new trilogy, fans were acutely aware that it wouldn't really be the end of, well, anything. Number 7, The Blip, Ant-Man and the Wasp. Ant-Man and the Wasp was one of 2 MCU movies sandwiched between Avengers Infinity War and Avengers Endgame, the other being Captain Marvel. And while the Ant-Man sequel was largely presented as a palate cleanser after Infinity War's bleak cliffhanger ending, it was still tasked with building a narrative bridge between the 2 Avengers movies. Even with Marvel Studios making it clear that Ant-Man and the Wasp was set before the events of Infinity War, most fans expected to see a credit scene which contextualized Scott Lang's absence from Infinity War, and what could be a more obvious way of doing this than showing Thanos' blip from another perspective. In the scene, Hank, Hope, and Janet send Scott into the quantum realm to harvest quantum energy for Ghost. But when Scott attempts to return, it's revealed that Hank, Hope, and Janet have been turned to dust. Though absolutely expected, it was nevertheless a tantalizing setup for Endgame. Number 6, Groovy, Evil Dead 2013. Even though 2013's Evil Dead was technically set within the same continuity as the original Bruce Campbell starring Sam Raimi directed trilogy, it was for all intents and purposes a reboot/reimagining, with Campbell's Ash seemingly nowhere to be found. All the same, with Raimi staying on as producer, and having considerable input on the end product, it was incredibly difficult to believe that Campbell wouldn't appear in the movie in some form. And what easier way to serve fans of the originals without taking anything away from the new movie than by giving Campbell a cheeky howdy-ho cameo in the credits? Rumors to this effect started doing the rounds in the months before Evil Dead's release, and so few fans were shocked when a shadowy Campbell rocked up at the very end of the credits to quip just one word, groovy, before turning to the camera. Sure, it wasn't the role every Evil Dead fan was hoping for, namely crossing paths with the movie's protagonist Mia to set up another film starring them both, but a Raimi-produced Evil Dead movie without even a sliver of Bruce would have just felt wrong. Number 5. Tommy Oliver's teaser, Power Rangers 2017. As soon as the cast for 2017's big-budget Power Rangers reboot was announced, the series' passionate fans demanded to know why the Green Ranger Tommy Oliver hadn't been confirmed among the ensemble. Though Tommy didn't join the original Mighty Morphin Power Rangers series until its 17th episode, he's still considered one of the OG Rangers, and as the only one missing from the reboot movie, his absence was most certainly conspicuous. And what could get fans more hyped for a sequel than introducing Tommy in some form? It was a slam dunk idea, and so Power Rangers mid-credit scene predictably returns to Angel Grove High, where the Rangers are informed that they'll be joined by another student for detention, Tommy Oliver. We then cut to Tommy's empty seat with a characteristic green jacket slung over the top, assuring fans that Tommy would appear in the planned sequel, even while their casting evidently hadn't yet been confirmed. Sadly, despite being well received by those who bothered to watch it, Power Rangers flopped at the box office, resulting in a planned blockbuster franchise quickly getting the axe. Number 4, Lara gets her guns, Tomb Raider 2018. 2018's Tomb Raider reboot is an especially egregious example of a neon signposted credits scene, considering that we got a pretty damn substantial taste of it in the movie's trailers. Given that the film was marketed as an origin story for Lara Croft, when one of the trailers showed off a considerably more confident-looking braided hair Lara acquiring her two iconic H&K USP match pistols, many fans immediately guessed this would be an end credits scene. Though the scene technically appears before the main bulk of the credits have rolled, it doesn't play until after the movie's title has flashed on the screen, so it certainly counts. The brief scene shows Lara returning to London, where she picks up the two pistols from pawn shop owner Alan and his wife Pamela, setting up a sequel that could hit the ground running with a fully suited and booted Lara Croft. However, despite numerous attempts to nudge a second film into production, MGM failed to get cameras rolling in time and lost the rights to the Tomb Raider IP. Number 3, Piccolo Survives, Dragon Ball Evolution. Every so often, a movie is awful enough that a post-credit sequel bait tease feels more like a threat than a promise of exciting attractions to come. And that's certainly the case with the execrable live-action Dragon Ball adaptation, Dragon Ball Evolution. Taking the movie's quality out of the equation for just a second, it just never seemed plausible that Dragon Ball Evolution's primary antagonist, King Piccolo, would be defeated and killed off for good in a single film. For starters, Piccolo was Dragon Ball's original bad guy, and beyond that, his arc eventually saw him pull a face turn and join the hero's side. So why would any self-respecting Dragon Ball fan wipe him out in one fell swoop? Sure, no self-respecting Dragon Ball fan played any part in this movie being made, but all the same, nobody believed Piccolo was really gone when Goku took him out with a Kamehameha wave at the end. Lo and behold, the hilariously naff mid-credit scene then showed a woman tending to an unseen figure in bed, before they turned around to reveal that, drumroll please, there was a very much alive Piccolo. Mercifully, Dragon Ball Evolution was a dud in every way that a movie can be, so fans never had the proposed sequel foisted upon them. Number 2, Superman Returns, Black Adam. In the case of Black Adam, having Superman show up at the end should have actually been a pretty damn huge surprise. But in a desperate attempt to boost his superhero movie's sluggish box office tracking, star Dwayne Johnson straight up spoiled the cameo 8 days before Black Adam went on general release. Considering only those fans who doggedly follow the DC rumor mill would have heard rumblings about Cavill's mid-credits cameo, without Johnson flat out confirming it, it ensured a mind-melting surprise became a mere inevitability by the time fans actually sat down to watch it. It's a fleeting fun sliver of fan service coming at the end of an otherwise forgettable superhero flop. But because of Johnson's desperate desire to drive added interest in the movie, everybody already knew who was about to step out of the shadows and confront Black Adam. Ultimately, the gambit backfired, as Black Adam failed to turn a profit regardless. Number 1, the corpse waits for question 5. Dungeons & Dragons Honor Among Thieves. The recently released Dungeons & Dragons Honor Among Thieves is a solidly fun time, though its penchant for broad, modestly amusing humor reached its apex with perhaps the most blatantly telegraphed credits gag in modern cinema history. Midway through the movie, Edgin and his band of heroes travel to a graveyard to question a fleet of dead warriors about the location of the precious Helm of Disjunction. The heroes cast a spell which allows them to resurrect the dead and ask them 5 questions. And after numerous interrogations prove hilariously fruitless, they finally get their answers from one of the reanimated rotters. However, the heroes flee the graveyard the moment they've got what they want, leaving the undead soldier waiting to be asked one remaining question before he can return to his eternal dirt nap. The scene then cuts away, but given that the movie's overall style and humor felt cut from the same cloth as the Marvel Cinematic Universe, in the mid-credits scene, the corpse is still alive and kicking in the graveyard, desperately waiting to be asked the 5th and final question that'll put him back into the ground. And that's our list. Know of any other post-credits movie scenes everyone saw coming? Well, let us know all about them in the comment section right down below, and do not forget to like, share, and click on that subscribe button while you're down there. Also, if you're into this sort of movie stuff, then please head on over to whatculture.com and find some more fantastic articles just like the one this video you're watching right now is based on. I've been Gareth from whatculture.com. Cheers for stopping on by. Now make a habit of it and have the best of days wherever you are. Bye bye!